Unearthed Secrets, 7 Sinister Encounters in the Haunted Woods that expose a forbidden terror. Emily's heart raced as she pulled into her driveway, the October chill biting at her skin. She had just finished a grueling 12-hour shift at the hospital, and the creeping unease she felt was anything but welcome. She stepped out of the car, the sound of crunching leaves echoing in the stillness of Pine Hollow. Shadows danced against the porch light, and that's when she noticed it: a rusted key, a tattered children's shoe, and a note. Its hurried scrawl taunted her, "The watchful woods." Panic clawed at her throat. What madness lurked beneath her mundane suburban life? With a shaky breath, Emily stepped closer, scanning the street where the trees loomed. A chill crept down her spine. Suddenly, she caught sight of Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, kneeling by her son Noah, offering him trinkets, shiny stones and twisted branches. A chilling smile plastered across his face. Noah's laughter echoed in the encroaching darkness, blissfully ignorant of horror. Instincts screamed at her. Mothers knew something wasn't right. But she pushed those fears aside. Maybe she was just tired and paranoid. Days turned into restless nights filled with whispers of dread. Emily spent her time sifting through old newspaper articles, uncovering unsettling tales of children gone missing over the years. It was alarming. The woods had a sinister reputation, an almost palpable darkness that drew its victims deeper into its depths. And now her husband, too, was lost to its shadows. The townsfolk dismissed her worries, rallying around Mr. Thompson. The more she learned, the more isolated she felt. They brushed past her, ice-cold, hushed voices weaving a web around her sanity. The night the flickering light appeared at the wood's edge changed everything. She stood frozen, the latest offering, a blood-red ribbon tied around a doll's neck gripped tight in her trembling hands. A frenzied line from the note echoed in her mind. The woods were calling her. Panic twisted in her gut as she wrestled with the truth. The locals knew, their silence was as heavy as the mist hanging from the trees. What else had they buried? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With trembling fingers, Emily uncovered a crumpled map from the back of a school letter, drawing her gaze toward paths both familiar and terrifying. The ink taunted her, revealing ways into the woods that twisted like dark fingers chasing the lost. Her heart raced, time was slipping away. Noah tugged her sleeve, oblivious to the encroaching horror, his innocence stark against the darkening world. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. As she stood at the forest's edge, the whispers intensified, the trees shuddering as if alive with malevolent intent. Emily gripped the map, knowing the danger lurking just beyond those trees was closing in. The woods were alive, hungry for what the townspeople had called their own. Would she find her husband amid the shivering branches, or had the darkness claimed yet another innocent soul? Emily took a tremulous step forward, the map crumpling in her hand. The whispers twisted around her, soft yet menacing, like fingers brushing against her skin. Each step deeper into the woods felt like she was breaking a fragile barrier between the known and the unknown, a line drawn in blood and fear. Noah, oblivious to the threat, giggled, chasing after a shadow flitting just out of sight. "Mom! Mom! Look!" He held up a stick, gleaming under the pale moonlight, a tool of innocence turned potential weapon. Panic surged within her. They were far too close to the abyss, and that laughter echoed too sweetly in the heart of a place wrought with nightmares. The branches overhead twisted into an arch, blocking out the stars that should have offered comfort. Suddenly, darkness enveloped them, thick as fog and heavy with the weight of forgotten tales. Emily's breath quickened, the air heavy and oppressive. "Noah, we should go back," she whispered, but her voice lost itself among the rustling leaves. But something nudged at her back, urging her forward. The map, her only guide, seemed to pulse in her grip. It hinted at a place marked with an ominous black circle. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay there was pivotal, a key that could unlock the answers to the horror she had uncovered. Desperation sharpened her resolve. Stay close to me, she called, the command erupting from her throat. As they ventured further, the terrain became unpredictable, roots snaking around their ankles like tendrils reaching for their souls. Every rustle sent a jolt of dread through her. Then came the voices, low and luring. Come play with us. They danced through the trees, and Emily's heart faltered. Each echo was a reminder of the missing before her, lost to the watchful woods. Noah stopped, his laughter fading as he turned to her, confusion and curiosity flashing across his features. Where are they? He asked, glancing around as if expecting children to emerge from the shadows, a macabre playmates reunion. Panic gripped Emily. Noah, we have to. But before she could finish, a chilling figure stepped out from the undergrowth. Mr. Thompson, his smile now grotesque, his eyes glinting with a shadow that belied innocence. Emily, dear, he said, a sickly sweet tone to his voice, you've gone too far. The woods will protect them. They are happy here. Waves of revulsion crashed over her. She grabbed Noah's hand tighter, instinctually ripping him back beside her, shielded from the revelation. Let us go, she cried, adrenaline fueling her desperation. You don't understand, Thompson sneered, stepping closer. The children belong to the woods now. You can't take them away. The darkness around them shifted, the trees leaning in closer, almost whispering secrets that made the air thicken with despair. Without thinking, Emily turned and ran, pulling Noah alongside her. The ground gave way beneath them as they sprinted, leaves crunching beneath their startled feet. Branches scraped against her arms, clawing at her like malicious spirits seeking retribution. The sensation of eyes on her back intensified, a primal fear wrapped around her heart. Just ahead, a flickering light fought through the canopy, the path of the unknown leading to whatever fate awaited them. As they neared the glowing beacon, the whispers morphed into screams, echoing through the hollow trees. Mommy! Noah cried, his voice tearing through her resolve. They stumbled into the clearing, the source of light illuminating something sinister, a gathering of dolls, each one eerily adorned in fragments of children's clothing, eyes wide and unblinking. The moment froze, dreadful clarity blossoming in her mind. This was their destination, but she wasn't meant to find it. Noah, hold on to me, she shouted, but he looked entranced as an unseen force pulled him toward the altar of twisted innocence, a dark spell cast by the woods themselves. As the light flickered ominously, Emily reached out. Would she save Noah from the wood's grasp, or would they both become tales whispered by the townsfolk? The weight of the woods pressed against her as the darkness beckoned. What could she possibly sacrifice to reclaim the light? And amid the chaos, one truth dawned: she had entered a realm forged from nightmares, and escaping might cost more than she was willing to pay. Would she defy the woods or succumb? The trees whispered eagerly, waiting for her answer. The flickering light cast long shadows around them, dancing as if alive. Emily's heart raced, each thud loud in her ears, drowning out the whispers that clawed at her mind. The dolls, their porcelain faces twisted into permanent expressions of joy, held an unsettling allure. They seemed to beckon Noah closer, their glassy eyes reflecting innocence stripped bare. Noah! Come back! The urgency in her voice broke through the spell, but he stood unmoving, entranced by the dull sheen of the dolls. Each moment felt like a knot tightening around her chest. The air grew so thick she could barely breathe, each breath a reminder of the lurking horror. With a fierce resolve, she dashed forward, her feet sinking into the soft earth as if the ground itself conspired to hold her back. Noah! She reached for him, her fingers brushing against his shoulder, but it was like touching a ghost. He shivered, eyes glossed over, and suddenly the laughter that filled the air felt like 1,000 children's voices, hauntingly melodic and sorrowful all at once. Noah, she whispered, fear ripping through her. The forest grinned around them, trees cracking with laughter, the sound creeping up her spine. In a terrible moment of clarity, she realized the truth nestled in the shadows the woods had taken many before them. Noah! She shouted, panic surging as she pulled her son away from the thrumming light. At her insistence, he stumbled back, shaking his head, confusion swirling in his eyes. Mom! There's nothing wrong. Don't you see? But she could feel the sinister grip of the woods squeezing tighter. Noah, listen to me. We have to leave, right now. Her voice was frantic, sabotaged by the fear that threatened to swallow her whole. The dolls seemed to sway, their clothing fluttering eerily, like a breeze dancing over an open grave. "No, I want to play." The defiance in her son's tone cut deeper than any blade could. They had crossed a threshold into a realm best left untouched. Emily's hand wrapped around Noah's wrist, colder than she remembered. "You don't get it. It's all a trap. They are not happy here." She felt the hairs on her arms rise, every instinct warning her that shoes have already traversed this bloody path before. The trees whispered again, louder this time, words slithering into her mind. "Come and join us forever." The call was intoxicating, promising solace in the chaos. A hollow promise that filled the air with dread. Finally, Noah broke free, lunging toward the dolls, the invisible force pulling at his tiny frame with a desperate strength. "They're just dolls, Mom. They just want to play." His cries echoed, clashing against her reality. But Emily knew the truth: these were not merely toys, they were vessels, empty shells filled with lost souls. "Noah, stop." Her heart ached, an arm's distance from losing him to a fate worse than death. The fabric of the woods seemed to twist, roots and branches mingling with shadows, reaching for her son like a curse. She charged forward, a desperate instinct driving her. "We don't belong here." She grasped him just as the ground trembled. The dolls began to stir, their limbs twitching, their eyes lighting up with something dark and unnatural. In a terrifying moment of clarity, Emily realized they were not simply watching, they were waiting. Waiting for one of them to join their ranks. "Noah!" she cried, and with all her might, she pulled him back. The moment stretched, then snapped, as the illusions of the woods erupted into chaos. The dolls contorted, their once serene faces now twisted into ghastly visages. They began to move, dragging themselves toward them, desire painted across their cracked features. With every ounce of strength left, she turned to run, darkness and screams clawing at her heels. The woods weren't just trying to keep them, it wanted them. Branches whipped against her skin as they fled, the light behind them faltering, beckoning them back. The whispers grew louder, now mingling with screams of children long lost to the forest. "We need to find a way out," she gasped, gripping Noah tightly. But as they ran deeper into the belly of the beast, a thought struck her cold: what if the path out was a lie? And then Emily saw it, another flicker of light in the distance, pulsing with a false warmth. Would it be a way out, or the wood's final trap? Time slipped away as darkness began to envelop them once more. Would Emily surrender to the forest's embrace? Or could she fight her way back to the light? The trees leaned closer, as if listening for her choice. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. The flickering light danced ahead, drawing her and Noah closer as if it were a living thing. Each step was a battle against fear, her instincts screaming. She could see the brightness, but it felt wrong, tainted. "Noah, we need to," but as she turned to pull him away, he was already looking at the light, his little body swaying as if under its spell. "No! We have to keep going," she urged, her desperation spilling into her voice. She yanked on his arm, the grip almost too soft. It was like holding on to nothing. But he didn't budge. "Mom, I want to see." He squirmed, a child's innocence colliding with an ancient evil surrounding them. The light brightened, casting an eerie glow that felt warm yet suffocating. Emily felt cold sweat drip down her back. The forest had changed, twisted branches now seemed to writhe and beckon. Were they reaching out or sealing them in? The siren call of the dolls grew louder, echoing above the rustling leaves. "Stay and play with us forever," it was disembodied, yet surrounding. Her throat tightened, and she fought back the fear and a surge of nausea. "Mom! Look!" Noah pointed, excitement bubbling beneath his confusion. "They're waiting for us." "Stop!" The word tore from her throat, sharp like glass. "They're lying. We have to go." The shadows around them quivered, shapes morphing in the dark. But Noah's face changed in that moment. The childish spark dulled. He looked almost entranced, like the dolls were whispering promises only he could understand. Every moment stretched painfully. "Noah!" Then suddenly, he broke free, bolting toward the light. Noah, no. She lunged, her heart racing, her world narrowing down to the shape of her boy disappearing into the glow. But as she grasped for him, the world around her shifted again. The forest snapped like a tightrope, branches leaning in as whispers filled the air, drowning her in a cacophony of lost voices. Join us, come play forever, Noah. She stumbled after him, the warmth of the light growing heavier, almost suffocating. The dolls were gone, replaced by shadows that writhed in the dimming light. Panic clawed at her throat. This isn't the way. Time seemed to fold upon itself as she drew closer. The light flickered, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. She could see Noah's small silhouette, standing still as if waiting for something unseen. Was it too late? Noah, don't. Her voice cracked, echoing into the suffocating silence. She barreled through the twisting underbrush, scraping her hands raw but ignoring the pain. She had to reach him before the light consumed him entirely. A terrible sensation washed over her, a realization that a price must be paid for this kind of magic. The forest fed on hope, then downward by despair. Don't touch it! She yelled, trembling with the force of her words. But as she lunged forward, the ground shook beneath her, roots and tendrils of darkness clawing at her legs, trying to pull her down into the very earth. Noah! Come back! She screamed. The echo of their names splintered the air, drawing her own awareness into fragments. Just then, the light shifted, revealing a face among the shadows, a girl with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. Join us, she whispered, ethereal and haunting, as if she had known Noah forever. Noah, please. Desperation swelled within Emily. The trees creaked ominously, their branches stretching toward her, their shadows beckoning. Would he understand her, or would innocence vanish in the dark? Suddenly, the ground beneath him quaked, swallowing her son with a sudden gasp that shattered her resolve. Emily's heart plummeted. The light was fading. No! She roared, racing forward. Time felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Would she reach him in time, or would he become just another whisper in the woods, just another soul lost? Through the chaos, at the edge of the light, she caught a glimmer, a distant reflection of something larger, something looming. As her fingers brushed against the darkened ground, everything snapped into focus for a terrifying heartbeat. Emily's mind raced. Could it be the way out she feared to take? The choice loomed before her, and as she took a breath to dive into the light, a single thought resonated: what truth was waiting beyond the flicker, and how much of herself would she have to sacrifice to find Noah? The darkness around her whispered, join us, emphasizing the choice that hung uncertainly in the air. What lay before her was just the beginning. Emily's heart raced as she surged forward, instinct overriding reason. The closer she got to the swirling light, the colder the air became, a deep chill wrapping around her like a shroud. She felt the pull, an undeniable urge to give in, to join Noah if only for the peace it promised. But visions of his laughing face made her desperate. Panic clawed at her throat, turning every breath into a struggle. Noah, please! She cried, her voice piercing through the thick fog of whispers. Fight it! The ground shifted again, roots like serpents coiling around her ankles, grasping, clutching. She flailed, desperate to break free, her body fighting against the invisible force yearning to drag her down. Shadows danced, flickering in the corner of her eyes, just outside the line of light, taunting her with what she could lose. Noah! She screamed again, but the sound felt muffled, drowned beneath the growing murmurs of the forest. They sang in unison now, a twisted lullaby seeping into her bones. Join us forever, she swallowed hard, tearing her gaze away from the light. It was time to look back, search for an escape hidden in the dark where the trees curled hungrily under the weight of despair. Every instinct warned her against it, but it might be the only way. If she couldn't reach Noah, perhaps she could find something else to fight for. Turning with a flurry, Emily stumbled as she lost her footing on the uneven ground. The air thickened. She could feel the pressure building, an unseen force trying to crush her. Then she saw them, the dolls, their cracked smiles fixed in place, their eyes gleaming in the darkness. They stood in a grotesque line, eyes aglow with that same eerie light from before, swaying in rhythm with the whispers of the forest. Each doll was more disturbing than the last, their forms twisted and grotesque, almost human but devoid of warmth. Emily's heart sank. Were they the remnants of hope, of children lost to this darkness? Or were they manifestations of Emily's deepest fears? Noah! She barked, her voice trembling. It echoed, fading with the laughter from the dolls. They responded, voices a cacophony of joy and malice, "Come play with us now!" She roared, feeling the tide of shadow surge around her. The very trees strained forward, branches like claws, wanting to suck her in, silence her screams. She needed clarity, a way to break the spell that held Noah captive. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Amongst the dolls, one stood out, tattered clothes, a missing eye, but emitted a sadness that tugged at her heart. Tension prickled along her skin. "Do you remember me?" A whisper echoed from the depths. It was sweet yet sorrowful, climbing through the dissonance surrounding her. In that moment, she understood. This doll was an echo of her greatest fear, a glimpse into what she could become. All those moments spent lost in despair, mired in guilt. She had to fight. She had to reclaim her son, reclaim herself. With newfound determination, she grounded herself. "Noah!" she bellowed, summoning every ounce of strength. "You have to fight. Come back to me." The shadows responded, lashing out, but she held firm. She refused to let them drag her down. The air crackled as she pushed through, the light shifting and pulsing around her body. It was a battle of wills. Then she saw him again, a glint of the boy she loved. Noah stood there, lost but not entirely gone, his small frame vibrating under the weight of the light. The ethereal girl, still lurking, reached for him with fingers that dripped darkness. Emily could feel the pull of despair and hope grappling like wild beasts. "Mom!" His voice echoed, barely able to penetrate the wall of shadows. But within that cry, an ember of resolve sparked. The very shadows began to howl, the whispers growing frantic. "Do not go to her!" they screeched, tense and begging. "No!" she shouted, lunging forward once more, ready to dive into the warmth of the light should it mean rescuing her boy. As she stretched her hand out to Noah, the air crackled with a terrible energy, reality warping under the strain. Would they break free, or would they both be swallowed whole? That's when she felt the ground buckle beneath her, a dark wave roaring as both light and shadow twisted perilously close together. Emily braced for impact, and in that moment of sheer terror, the world around them began to unravel. What was lurking just beyond the veil? Emily's vision dissolved into chaos, as if the very fabric of reality had come undone. The darkness surged, engulfing her like a living thing, and she felt the ground beneath her shift violently. The grasping roots released their hold, but in their place, a thick fog rose, swallowing her whole. Panic gripped her heart. All she could hear was the sound of 1,000 whispers, clamoring and swirling like a tempest. "We'll never let you go," they hissed, their voices slithering into her mind, igniting old fears and sleepless nights. "Stop!" she screamed, but the sound was lost in the maelstrom. She stumbled, feeling her way through the obscured world, each breath colder than the last, until her fingers brushed against something soft, then hard. Dolls. A sea of dolls, all twisted smiles and hollow eyes, shifting like shadows ready to consume her. Just then, a laugh, a childless laugh, cut through the noise, sharp and clear. "Mommy? Are you here?" The sweet innocence of Noah's voice broke through her despair. Her heart raced, but this time it wasn't from fear. "Noah! I'm coming!" She forced her legs to move, battling against the thick mist that hung in the air, stinging her lungs. But each step felt like running through molasses. The dolls began to close in, their voices overlapping, taunting her, their godforsaken language turning the air rancid. "Play with us, come, play, shut up!" she screamed, the fraying fibers of her sanity threatening to snap. She felt as if they were pulling her towards the darkness, away from the sound of Noah's laughter. "No!" Determination fueled her. She wasn't about to let this nightmare win. She focused on the warmth of his voice, pushing through the cacophony surrounding her. As she lunged through the haze, the laughter faded. "Noah!" she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. Panic surged again, and the fog thickened, wrapping around her in a tight embrace. Blackened tendrils lunged, pulling and pushing her in every direction. But then she spotted it. A flicker of light, a soft blue glow peeking from between the trees. Noah! She gasped, instinct taking over as she darted toward it, the light drawing her like a moth. Each step was a battle, and with every inch gained, the whispers devolved into furious wails. "Leave this place!" they shrieked, the temperature dropping further, making her bones ache. Finally, the glow illuminated her surroundings, revealing a clearing bathed in an otherworldly light. In the center stood Noah, his small figure trembling, surrounded by the twisted dolls who now formed a grotesque circle around him, their cracked smiles breaking into chilling grins as they closed in. "Noah!" she shouted, but he didn't respond. His vacant gaze locked onto something beyond her reach, captivated by an unseen force. The ethereal girl floated behind him, her fingers stretching out like spider legs, beckoning him closer. "Come, Noah, it's time to play," rage bubbled inside Emily. "You won't take him," she shouted, letting the words rip from her as she charged forward, fueled by a primal need to protect her son. But the ground shook violently, roots erupting beneath her, grasping at her feet like 1,000 grasping hands. "Outsider!" The shadows roared, the whispers now a piercing scream. As time slowed, the scene before her twisted horrifically. The clearing warped between light and dark, each flicker drowning further into despair. Emily reached out, her pulse hammering in her temple. "I will not let you have him." The fabric of the world flickered again. In that split second, everything paused. The dolls halted their sinister dance, the whispers ceased, and the light flickered like an ancient candle about to go out. But Emily was not ready to surrender. She lifted her head, her voice roaring through the chasm of chaos. "I am his mother." The world seemed to crack under the weight of her declaration. Would this surge of defiance be enough? Just as darkness roared in reply, a chilling question emerged from the shadows, echoing through the stillness. "Are you truly so sure?" As dread filled the air, Emily's reality twisted. Again, setting her heart racing as the ground beneath her shimmered with unseen truths, urging her to confront her deepest fears. What secrets lay hidden in the shadows that might tear her world apart? The air felt electric, crackling with a tension that threatened to unravel the very core of Emily's existence. She steadied her breathing, the weight of her declaration still ringing in her ears. "I am his mother." The assertion clung to her like a lifeline, but the shadows seemed to laugh, as if mocking her tenacity. The clearing pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Time felt suspended, but the dolls shifted, their hollow eyes now glinting with malicious delight. "Play with us," they chanted softly, a sinister melody that crawled under her skin. The girl behind Noah, an embodiment of eerie innocence, beckoned him closer, her smile widening impossibly. "Noah!" Emily lunged, but the ground beneath her morphed again, cracking open like the jaws of a beast hungry for another victim. The roots slithered around her ankles, tightening their grip. Every ounce of resolve wavered as she struggled against the binding vines that swirled around her. The horror of the scene burned into her mind. Her son, her sweet Noah. "Get away from him!" The ground convulsed, pushing her back as the dolls began to move, advancing on her with deliberate slowness. She could see their dark expressions morphing into grotesque imitations of laughter, whipping the air into a frenzy. "What do you want?" she screamed, a desperate plea, knowing full well the answer was buried somewhere in the fabric of this nightmare. The girl's voice floated over, lilting but icy. "We want you to join us forever." The undercurrent of the invitation slithered into her thoughts, igniting the fear she had long buried. Clarity cut through the haze. This wasn't just about Noah. It was about a confrontation bound in her very essence. "You think you can take him and break me?" She pulled against the roots, forcing her feet into the ground as if she could somehow stand her ground. As the world shifted again, the whispers returned, beckoning, "Accept your fate, your fears are no match for us." Emily's heart raced at the barrage of voices. Each word seeped into her chest like venom. With a frenzied scream, she tore her foot free. She barreled toward her son, every ounce of her being focused on one singular thought: protect him. But just as she lunged, the beam of light flickered violently, flickering with uncertainty. The dolls exploded into motion, lunging as a predatory pack, their laughter transforming into screams. "Noah!" The boy stood there, transfixed, as the spectral girl glided toward him, her fingers clawing for a grasp. Emily was nearly upon him, but a shrieking wind whipped through the clearing, chilling her bones and stalling her, rendering her helpless against the onslaught. "Mother," his voice whispered, trembling and distant. An unseen force pulled him closer to the girl. Emily felt a chasm open between them, filled with darkness that rustled like the sound of brittle leaves. "Fight it! Noah, please!" she begged, her voice raw with desperation. For a moment, his gaze shifted, lost in the fog before meeting her eyes, confusion swirling in his expression. The dolls advanced, eyes glowing like embers, and time snapped back into place. Their grasping arms reached for Emily, and with each breath, despair thickened into a palpable substance. Just as the toys lunged, Emily felt something stir. The ground beneath her surged angrily in response. "No!" she cried, overpowering the whispers. The air vibrated as she dug deeper, reaching from within to unleash a raw scream of defiance. In that moment, a blinding light erupted, illuminating the clearing, forcing back the shadows momentarily. Fear and hope mingled with adrenaline, causing her heart to pound with fierce determination. But the light flickered, weak from the relentless shadows trying to reclaim their territory. Then, against the backdrop of disarray, a piercing laughter broke through the stillness, a voice she recognized all too well. "Oh, but dear Emily, the darkness is your salvation." Chills raced down her spine. Who was taunting her? A face emerged in the luminescence, shrouded in the light but cruelly familiar. "Who are you?" she shouted, eyes wide in horror. "What do you truly fear?" The figure whispered, its smile slicing through the light like a knife. Emily hesitated, the weight of a new terror crushing her chest. What more could they take from her? The lingering question filled the air, thick and suffocating. "Will you welcome the truth, or shall another sacrifice be made?" As the laughter echoed, twisting into an ominous taunt, the puppeteers of this unforgiving nightmare prepared to expose the darkest truths held within her heart. The laughter faded into an oppressive silence, thick enough to suffocate the air around Emily. Each inhalation felt like she was drinking poison, dread wrapping around her like a straitjacket. She clenched her jaw, focusing on the glowing face before her. It flickered like the dying light, revealing hints of familiar features, those hollow eyes, that haunting smile. The resemblance clouded her mind, leaving trails of regret and a gnawing void in her heart. "Noah!" she called again, voice breaking, eyes darting to where her son stood. The spectral girl held his hand now, pulling him closer. Desperation surged through Emily, fueling each pulse in her veins as she strained against the roots still binding her. "Fight! You have to fight!" She willed her voice to reach him, but the air felt like glue, thickening with every heartbeat. The dolls stopped their advance, forming a ring around her, their laughter morphing into a roiling growl. Hunger ripened the air. "Mother!" Noah exclaimed, looking confused, helpless. "Help!" It was a plea, but also a question. Did he want saving, or was he already lost? The voice of the familiar figure cut through the confusion. "Shall we reveal our gift, dear Emily? The past so unkindly buried? Ah, but you know it well." The brightness flickered again, casting grotesque shadows across Noah's face, distorting his features as if he were becoming one of them. "No! Stop!" Emily screamed, the fear rising like bile in her throat. Could they truly bring back the horrors that haunted her? She had buried them, locked them away for so long. The questions echoed in her mind, clawing at her resolve. "What are you doing to him?" "Nothing that you haven't done yourself," the figure replied, its smile widening, revealing sharp teeth like a predator in the night. "Noah!" she shouted, stretching her hand toward him, sensing the encroaching darkness on the edges of her vision. The girl released him, smiling sinisterly as she stepped back. Noah stumbled forward, confusion etched into his brow. "Mom, why can't I move?" He strained, his body reluctant, as if bound by invisible strings. "Trust me. You'll fight it," Emily cried, her heart pounding, threatening to rupture against the despair swelling around them. But as the dolls drew nearer, the girl spoke again, voice rhythmic and soothing. "Join us, little one. We're having so much fun. It was like a lullaby, meant to hypnotize, dulling the edges of terror. Noah! Emily felt the world spinning, her vision blurring as unknown forces twisted and tugged at her sanity. You have to run. Don't listen to them. Then, a deafening clap struck the sky, accompanied by a crack of lightning slicing through the canopy. The sudden flash illuminated the clearing for a split second. Emily saw Noah, tears streaming down his cheeks as he fought against his own body, trapped in a macabre dance. "What's behind you, Emily?" the figure asked, voice dripping with mockery. Heart racing, she glanced back only to see the silhouettes of distant trees, looming like monstrous giants waiting to strike. Shapes twisted in their shadows, eyes shining cruelly, all beckoning her toward the abyss. She turned back to Noah, the light from her soul flickering between hope and despair. "I won't let them take you. Noah!" She screamed again, the weight of her love igniting the very air around her. "Will you sacrifice your fears for him?" The figure mocked, its face contorting, becoming more grotesque, exposing the scars of painful memories. "Or will you cling to the lies you so desperately want to believe?" Every word felt like a dagger, sharp and biting. Emily could feel her connection to Noah a fraying string, and with it, the power of her own fears loomed around her like shackles. Was she strong enough to break free? The moment hovered between reality and illusion, as the crowd of dolls surrounded her, laughter turning into a collective howl. Gritting her teeth, she clenched her fists, the ground quaking beneath her. "I choose him. I choose love." The ground trembled ominously, shadows recoiling as she unleashed her defiance. The urge to protect ignited something deep within her, a spark that threatened to become a blaze. But just then, a deafening roar reverberated through the trees, washing over her, drowning her efforts in a tide of darkness. "No!" she cried, hearing Noah's voice reaching out from the depths of the void. "Emily, help me!" Then silence. The light flickered one last time before plunging them into thick darkness. The figures surrounded her, their voices merging into one chilling chant, "Welcome back to your truth." As they surged forward, the fleeting light faded, leaving only the bitter taste of dread on Emily's tongue. What was the truth they were promising? And would it reveal the horror buried deep within or cause her to drown in despair? Emily felt her heart stumble before the darkness swallowed her whole. It wrapped around her like an old, suffocating cloak, dragging her deeper into a past she desperately wanted to forget. Panic shot through her, causing her breath to hitch as her mind raced. Where was Noah? The silence felt monstrous, palpable, crawling against her skin. She blinked, desperate to grasp some semblance of reality. The laughter of the dolls echoed maddeningly in her mind, merging with whispers from shadows that she couldn't quite decipher. "Emily!" The voice slithered like a serpent, curling around her thoughts. It was Noah's voice, soft, scared. "Mom? Here. I'm right here." Emily called into the void, but her own voice felt small and insignificant, swallowed by the encroaching night. Suddenly, a flicker of light returned, small and weak like a dying firefly. She turned toward it, desperation fueling her every step. "Noah," she whispered as she stumbled forward, reaching out into the darkness. The warmth of that flicker pushed against the cold grip of fear surrounding her. Another flash illuminated the clearing, revealing faces of despair, countless eyes, and twisted smiles. The dolls, they were alive, filled with a hunger that gnawed at her insides. "Noah!" she cried, but no answer came, only the unsettling laughter of the dolls, vibrating with malice. She pressed on, her back straightening, determination cutting through the shadows. The firefly flicker danced ahead, and she moved toward it, fear morphing into fierce courage. "What will you sacrifice to save him?" The shrill voice echoed, ethereal and haunting. "What is your truth?" Emily fought against the creeping despair threatening to snuff her hope. "I won't sacrifice anything. I'll save my son." The words rang out, louder now, her own voice resonating in the void. The laughter turned to hissing. "So noble!" one doll crooned, its beady eyes glinting in the low light. "But does it matter when the shadows know your sins?" Her heart raced, pounding like a drum in her ears. "Sins?" The word clawed at her, jointed memories surfacing, decisions made, words unsaid, fear witnessed. And then, in a flickering moment, she felt something shift, a tug at the roots binding her, loosening their grip just enough. "Emily," Noah's voice cut through the haze. "Please, I can't feel you. I'm coming. Just hold on." Her words pushed forward as she fought against the constraints. The dolls shrieked in unison, their serenade turning savage, taunting her. She sprinted toward the weak glow, but as she did, the darkness surged, clawing at her ankles like 1,000 hands pulling her back. The ground rumbled beneath her. Shadows exploded into wild shapes before her, creeping into sight like thoughts she wished would stay buried. "Fear where you came from." The figure emerged, its face morphing with each step, a cacophony of her past guilt and inadequacies. "Can you accept what you've done?" The truth hides in the shadows. Panic clawed its way up her throat, but she refused to succumb. "No!" she screamed, rage replacing fear. "I don't need your truth. I only need Noah." There was a moment of silence, heart-stopping, as she burst through the veil of shadows surrounding her, emerging into a fog of dim light. Noah stood there, a silhouette at its center, tremors vibrating through his small frame. "Mom, please." His voice cracked, a small ray of vulnerability cutting through the bleakness. She lunged forward, feeling the last of her strength gathering. But as she reached him, the darkness erupted, swirling around them, threatening to pull them apart one more time. The dolls advanced, their chipped porcelain faces contorting in impossible grins, whispers thickening the air. "Together we can unravel your reality," they chanted, the voices mixing into a throaty growl. "What will you sacrifice?" Emily steadied herself, heart racing, but she held on to one truth that pierced through the chaos: her love for Noah. The darkness wavered, almost afraid, as she grasped Noah's tiny hands. She felt it, the connection between them almost electric. "I choose us," Emily cried, defiance roaring in her chest. And just like that, the world fell silent. What was the price of their love? And would it be enough to push back the darkness threatening to consume them both? The quiet that followed felt like a breath held too long, thick with tension. Emily's chest tightened as she locked eyes with Noah, a fierce light igniting within her. She wasn't going to lose him, not to this monstrous darkness, and certainly not to the twisted evils of the woods. "Hold on to me, Noah," she whispered urgently, feeling the warmth radiating between their palms. The connection felt like a lifeline, anchoring her to sanity, to love. She could sense the darkness swirling, sensing their resolve, and for a moment, it hesitated. "No!" the figure screeched, its voice lancing through the air like a shattered glass. "You cannot escape your truth. The past is insatiable." Shadows writhed around them, twisting into grotesque shapes, hauntingly familiar, a reflection of all that they had ever feared. Emily took a step forward, her voice steady despite the pounding in her heart. "I won't let it take us. We are more than our fears." Her declaration sounded loud against the murmur of the woods, echoing like a war cry. With each word, the light flickered around them, pulsing as if gaining strength from her conviction. The dolls paused, their sinister advance meeting the fierce barrier of her will. Light surged in a wave, pushing against the dark, illuminating the faces of the dolls, revealing sadness underneath their cracked porcelain smiles. "Noah?" she called, squeezing his hand tighter. "Can you feel it? We're not alone in this. We have each other." His small face brightened for a moment, the confusion fading as he nodded. "Mom! I want to go home," he yelled, his voice breaking through the fog that had clouded his mind. The determination in his voice shot straight to her core, igniting every dormant spark of hope. And that hope ignited the clearing, the pulse of their connection rippling outward, pushing back against the tendrils of darkness. The dolls howled as the brightness surged, their hollow eyes wide with shock, retreating in chaos. "Together!" they cried, but Emily had already made her choice. In that moment, her love for her son filled the air, a powerful force that drowned out the echoes of despair. "Together!" she shouted back, the word resonating loud and clear, drowning the whispers that had haunted her. They charged toward the flickering light, the shadows shrieking and gnashing their teeth as the very ground shook with their fury. She could feel the roots loosening their hold, the weight of darkness starting to lift. "Noah, keep running," she urged, their feet pounding against the earth, racing toward the light, a beacon of the unknown. It felt as if they were running toward their freedom, their sanctuary, everything they had fought for. A brilliant beam exploded around them as they reached the heart of the light, enveloping them in warmth. The darkness thrashed wildly, shadows pushing back desperately as if lashing out against loss. "No! No!" it bellowed, a cacophony of anger and anguish. "This cannot be." But Emily and Noah stood strong, trembling but together, hearts aligned in their refusal to surrender. The roots retracted, shadows retreating, the laughter of the dolls fading into a whimper. "Noah!" Emily breathed, pulling him tight against her as the brightness enveloped them completely. "We did it!" A blinding flash erupted, swallowing the darkness entirely. Everything spun like a whirlpool, the world collapsing into itself, before bursting forth into a sea of light, a solemn, soothing glow that drifted like a gentle breeze. They stumbled forward, limbs heavy yet unbound. The weight of the woods was gone. They emerged on the familiar, sunlit path leading them home, Pine Hollow, surrounded by the soothing embrace of ordinary life. Breathing heavily, Emily took in her surroundings. The trees stood tall and serene, no longer cast in shadows. The air held a fresh crispness, and behind them, the haunted woods seemed to sigh, the tension dissipating like a forgotten dream. "Noah!" She released a breathless laugh, her boy safe beside her. He looked at her with wide, innocent eyes, still trembling from the harrowing ordeal they barely escaped. "We're home!" she exclaimed, tears blurring her vision. "Mom, I was so scared," he whispered, his small body quivering with excitement and shock. "I know, sweet boy. But we're safe now. I'm here. I will always be here." As they walked toward their house, hand in hand, the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating everything around them. The weight of loss lifted, and in its place was a promising dawn, a vow that they would never become just echoes in the forest. Reflecting on the shadows they had faced, Emily knew the haunting memories would linger, but they had transformed into something sacred, lessons of strength and love. The woods had claimed many, but she had refused to let that fate be theirs. Together, they would carry their light into every darkened corner of their lives. As they entered their home, the door creaked open. The warmth welcomed them, filling the void with affection and hope. They were safe. They would rebuild. Outside, the encroaching woods stood quiet, tranquil now, but forever vigilant, a reminder of the darkness that almost consumed them. Emily glanced back once, a silent farewell to the forest that held so many secrets. And as they stepped inside, she knew they would face whatever came next together. This is the moment, my friends. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. I want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. And don't wait even one more second, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. Let's keep this journey going together.